Welcome to episode 94 of the Critical Twits Gaming Podcast, where today we talk about our first proper Malifaux tournament. Hello and welcome to the Critical Twits. My name's Brian Ennis and I played Guild in our tournament.
I'm Joe Lewin and I played Arcanists.
I'm Colin Howard and I played Resurrectionists.
And I'm Lilith and I played Rob. No wait, scratch, reverse.
We're here to talk about the Troubleshooters tournament that the Critical Twits and friends attended last week.
Yeah.
Troubleshooters
3.
Troubleshooters 3, yes. 3 Troubles were shot.
Yes.
This was a really interesting tournament for us to go to as our first proper tournament.
Proper? What's wrong with my house?
Yeah, so...
Other people don't come, so it's just us.
yeah.
Speak for yourself.
Rob's had a very good tournament. We have talked about tournamenting before on the podcast, but we've tournamented within our own gaming group.
We were challenged.
Yes.
Had succeeded in our challenge.
Yes, and so that didn't really count towards the challenge we were set by the Red Jokers, a faux show.
Yes.
Or a Fox Shocks.
I still love their name.
It's good. Critical Twits is...
Hi, people from the future.
Yay! The Australian podcast, who I was listening to the other day.
Oh.
Actually, they were talking about Masters I should know how to play properly and didn't. So I learned some stuff. So go listen to them at some point. They're quite good. We guested on them. Well, Joe and I did. A year ago, nearly.
God.
Yeah.
Isn't that long?
Yeah, about a year ago. We eventually got round to taking them up on their offer of, their challenge of going to a tournament. Now, Troubleshooters is a fixed master, fixed pool tournament. So we all had to pick a master. We then had to create 70 soul stones worth of models and upgrades that we were going to take along. And then for each game, we would pick 45 soul stones worth of stuff to use from that pool. And we were using the new Gaining Grounds 2018 schemes and strategies. It was interesting in the sense that nobody there had really played much GG 2018.
Nobody's played that much because it's very, very new.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There are a couple of people we bumped into who had played a few games.
We had, 5 days between the launch and...
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was quite nice in the sense there were some people there who'd never been to tournaments before, just like us.
Mm-hmm.
There was someone I played who had never played Malifaux before.
Wonderful.
Amazing.
And then there were some people who have played lots and lots of tournaments go to very high-ranking events, and there's some sadness in the group.
Yeah, wasn't there, Colin?
There was some
sadness.
fun. Yeah. Oh, don't worry. I only played 150 games last month. Okay, that's more than I've ever played.
No, that's he'd played that many tournament games last year.
Oh, that's true.
Which is more
Otherwise,
games
that's
than
5 days, 5 games a day.
More games than us combined.
Yeah.
Ever.
It was a nice mix, but it meant everyone was kind of on an even playing field to some degree because
your tournament experience is vastly different to me and Colin's.
Yeah, because everyone was starting with new schemes and strategies, everyone was starting fresh, and you had to pick a master that could try to tackle a bit of everything.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like someone who's very, very good with a certain faction picking exactly the right master, and we're still kind of learning GG 2018.
Yes.
Which was weird. We're still just kind of learning who's good at what in general.
Yeah.
Well, from what we've learned, half of us forgot what rules our models done, the other half forgot rules of the game while we were going. It was good.
So we did have a practice little miniature tournament at Rob's. And so for that, I decided to take my...
Did we?
Yeah, you were there.
Yeah. where none of us played the things we took to the tournament.
No.
Excellent, right? Oh, that one. Yeah,
Yeah.
I didn't take a single model from that.
Yeah.
So I played Dreamer at this tournament. The Dreamer that I said I'd paint for a weird challenge December painting competition and
How'd
didn't
that go,
paint. I painted half of one model in all of December and realised that I was completely out of my comfort zone, and so I fell back onto Sonia, one of the first masters I've ever played, someone that's fairly straightforward. She blows things up and sets them on fire, and that's kind of cool. So that's why I went with Sonia Guild for my for my master.
Yeah, I've always stuck to Arcanists.
Yes.
Because I'm
Sticky.
Well, no, I just decided to stick to a single faction to stop me spending too much money.
Yes. They found the most broken one that ignores all the rules, has its own rules, doesn't want to end their turns, because that's you, Joe.
Well, yeah, that's how you play these games. So during the sort of trial tournament, I played Sandeep for the first time.
Oh God, yeah.
Upset everyone because he's a bit good, but didn't feel I was using enough of his tricks well enough to justify taking it to the actual tournament. So I fell back on trusty old Rasputina, who I've played quite a few times, 5 or 6 times before, but felt comfortable with what she did.
Yeah. She's quite simple. She blows things up and freezes them.
Yes.
Yeah.
She is the ice to Sonia's fire.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was all right. Felt like a good choice at the time.
Yeah. So speaking of ice and fire, we've got ice, and we've got the undead.
Yes, or in my case, mostly living, because half my crew was living, so that worked out well for me. I was originally going to take Seamus, who is willpower, horror duel based. Just don't let anybody activate, because I can't be bothered to actually play you. I just want to do my own things. However, when I found out they were doing a painting competition, I just kind of went, I'm going to take the stuff that's painted.
To clarify, there was a Best Painted Master award at the tournament as well.
Yeah.
Which had to be the master you had picked for the fixed pool.
Yeah, you couldn't just bring someone else along.
Some people did try.
Really? Well, that's very naughty of them.
I was actually going to enter my Rasputina into that, but I had to take Colin to buy cigarettes, and by the time we got back, the voting had finished.
We did after
you
all
managed
that,
to get your bloody model in.
That's because the guy went, oh, that's really nice painted, and you'd probably win. Here you go, put it in late. But by that time, most of the voting had been done. But so in the end, I took McMorning, who is one of my favourite characters, just because he stabs things a lot.
Now, I did manage to squeeze in a couple games with Sonia just to reacquaint myself with her. Didn't I, Colin?
I would know, Brian.
You came round my house. I
did.
Gave you drink. I think I may even have fed you some nibbles and snacks. I definitely stroked your hair.
You did stroke my hair.
And I gave you a foot rub, and you responded by murdering my master in the second turn, first activation, when I'm trying to learn what she does again. I learnt nothing that game.
Yes, you did. You learnt not to put Sonia close enough for me to go and murder her.
You'd think.
It wasn't the first time that's happened.
No.
How many times did Sonia die in the tournament?
She didn't die once!
There you go.
She survived every single time.
£500.
I just stuck her in the corner of the board.
So before we get going, Rob, what did you do?
Practice tournament, I went, right, I'm taking Mayfong to the tournament. I'm going to practice, I'll get all this stuff. I even started painting the crew, again for the weird thing, and didn't finish even the totem. And then Chris turned up several hours late, having driven over from the deepest, darkest bayou.
Yeah.
I went, I'm taking Mayfong. I went, okay, I'll throw together another crew. And grabbed Lilith as my most familiar master and played that for the evening and went, oh, this is kind of fun. And went, oh, it's not a noobs tournament. Like the top 10th ranked person, the top Arcanist, is also playing. Someone I've only played 4 times is going to be a bad plan.
Yeah.
I'll go to Lilith.
Yes.
Never mind the 10 Thunders. Never born all the way.
So basically, we all got really scared and went back to what we remembered.
Yeah, which actually I think was a good idea for a tournament where you're playing games under time pressure against people you don't know, and with objectives you're maybe not 100% familiar with. At least you know your crew.
I wouldn't know.
Well,
someone had told my opponents. But on top of that, I also faced Mayfong twice, so I'm so glad I didn't.
Oh, that's
that would have been dull.
Would have been a right fang off.
Scrap markers everywhere, cans of worms.
So I thought what we'd do is we'd talk through a little bit of what we took, and then have a chat about how the tournament went and how we kind of found the format, the people, etc., etc. Those of you listening, because our podcast has quite a wide reach, we're surprisingly popular in North America and Canada.
Excellent.
End of turn 5, in my first game, Joe and Colin have come over to see how I'm doing and whether I'm finished or not. And guy from the table beside leans over and goes, Are you Joe from Critical Twits?
Because out of all of us, I'm the one that gets recognised at tournaments.
You do.
Consistently.
Yeah.
You have a distinctive voice. There was only one other person at the tournament with your voice.
Well, I think I have a very distinctive voice in these podcasts.
No one hears you. You're edited out.
You also make people
hang on.
slippy.
There was one other person with my voice.
I've never encountered it before, but I went, "What's Joe playing there?" He's up. Oh no, literally sounded just like you.
Oh my goodness.
What?
Looked nothing like you. It wasn't a real doppelganger. Or just
You have
a
a
very good
throat twin. I was messing around with different things, so I couldn't decide what to take. So what did I do, Joe?
Whinged in a Facebook chat a little bit that you weren't sure, so I went, if I was going to take Sonia without knowing what guild does, I would take these things, because I know Brian has the models and they seem like they're Sonia things.
Yeah, and
Why
some
don't
of them
you
were
take
stuff I
something
practiced
like
with.
this 70 Soulstone pool? There's a point left if you want to add an upgrade. I missed.
So I took a 69 point pool because I couldn't even be bothered to pick an upgrade for myself. So I took Sonia with her flame walls, her counter spelling whatnots, which was very, very useful. But mostly I was aiming to reincarnate, burn a load of soul stones, and then people that died while on fire near her, I turned into more witchling stalkers, of which I took 2 in the pool, leaving a model left for summoning purposes. I took her totem, which generally is rubbish, but you put it in the thing, so I took it.
God's sake, Joe.
Right. Samuel Hopkins, her thematic henchman. I always find he's really brittle. And I whinged at you and went, why did you put him in there? He's really brittle. And you went, he's really good at shooting stuff.
Because
so I took him.
he can shoot through walls if they're on fire. That seems dumb.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really horrible.
Yeah.
Yeah. I took Dr. Grimwell. Why did I take Dr. Grimwell, Joe?
Dr. Grimwell, when flicking through the models I knew he had, looked like it was quite an interesting model because it ties people into melee quite well because he's good at stopping people running away. So we knew in our second round we were going to be playing Ply for Information. So running up to someone and going, haha, I know some stuff, and you now can't leave, and you can't ply me for information because I have the thing.
Yeah.
So seemed really good. He can also move people, so being able to move people out of combat to be shot or whatnot seemed like it might be really handy.
Yes. Grimwell's also a witch hunter, so he fits kind of the
Exactly.
theme. I took Guild Austringer for scheme purposes.
And because you can emulate the Australian birds that set things on fire.
Yes. We won't provide a link because we never remember to do that. Stroke like.
But look it up, it's horrifying.
Yes. Yeah, there's an Australian bird that starts forest fires to cook its dinner.
Three different types of Australian birds, 2 kites and something else.
Oh, I thought it was like one psychopathic bird that had like a really bad time in the nest.
No, they've seen 3 different species do it.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, Australia's full of things that want you dead. Don't
Cool.
go there, it's dumb.
Including the Australians.
Yeah.
Only if you're a backpacker.
Backpacker, yes.
Yeah. I took a Witchling Handler for extra fire purposes, and they were reduced because this was using the new errata.
Yeah.
And so there are only 7 soul stones now, not 8, and that seems like a bargain. I took some upgrades. Debt to the Guild, Plant Evidence. Numb to the World is quite fun. You can choose not to gain conditions from enemy actions.
Yeah,
that's really good.
Nice.
It's almost Arcanist.
And I took Witch Hunt and then never used it. It's the only thing I didn't use all day. But I took, because I'd used them against you, Joe, and you, Colin, and they were really, really good, and they were so good throughout the day, and they're my favourite thing in the entire game at the moment. Witchling Thralls.
You're welcome.
Beautiful Witchling Thralls. Thank you for my Christmas present 2016. They are so good. They are so tough, with 12 wounds, impossible to wound, passing all horror duels, and the thing that I really, really like that they do is if someone drops a scheme marker within 4 inches of them, they become inexplicably angry and punch things for free. So that was my guild for Sonia.
With Rasputina, my upgrades are quite simple. I took both of the new ones, both the ones that make her a little bit quicker with a melee attack, and one that allows her to summon, because I had a really good idea. I took the Shattered Mirror in every game because it's kind of mandatory.
What does that do?
It makes her channeling better, and you don't take the -1 cast, and you can still declare triggers.
Oh, yeah.
And when one of her triggers is do it again. A couple of Ice Garmin, one for their 0 action to make her attacks do more damage, and one to turn into scrap markers to summon. I took a couple of silent ones, because I think the healing's really good, and the cast without a gun means you can clear things out of combat, so you can then channel through it.
Yeah.
Really handy. A couple of ice dancers for scheming, a December acolyte, and then I was umming and ahhing for a long time about my choice of henchman, because it's nearly always Joss,
Yes.
because I like Joss,
Fuck Joss.
and no one else does.
Colin, why do you say fuck Joss?
Why do I say fuck
Yeah.
Joss? The thing is,
Jesus Christ, you're actually calling him Joss, not Josh.
Yes.
It's the best day ever.
Joss.
Joss.
Do you know what? I don't know why, because I've not really had that much trouble with him. I just think he's a
Fair enough.
He looks like a he acts like a Everybody does.
Brian trouble with him in the past.
Yes.
When two Cheddies charged across the board at him and failed horribly to kill him.
Yeah, he murdered 2 teddies on his own.
Legitimately murdered 2 Teddies on his own.
Because he ignores all of your defensive stuff, your armour, your hard to wound.
He ignores hard to wound, defensive, and armour, hard to wound, hard to kill. The plan was to use Joss to kill an Ice Garmin to get 2 scrap markers to summon extra stuff turn 1. I then decided, last minute, because that's how I do tournaments, that changing Joss out of a Snowstorm was a really good idea. Because Snowstorm can push things out of combat and do some other cool stuff, and he's quite good in melee anyway, but doesn't make extra scrap markers, so taking the summoning upgrade was dumb, and I should have replaced it for the one that lets me count the black Joker as the red Joker, which you'll hear why later.
So does Joss ignore hard to wound?
Yeah.
So he doesn't ignore impossible to wound,
No, nothing in the game ignores
which is
impossible
what
to win.
teddies have.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, get good.
Colin, pass me that teddy. I want it.
No, I want it.
I'll
I'm
put you
sad now.
Colin, what did you take?
I have my list here because I do not remember much. I took McMorning with Decaying Aura, which allows...
I hate that upgrade.
It's a great upgrade. It means that within 4 inches of McMorning you cannot heal and you cannot use soul stones to prevent damage. This, coupled with McMorning's obsession with stabbing things, makes things fall over.
Yeah, it does.
Although, yes, it didn't really work because I ended up playing 2 very high people who just kind of murdered him to stop that happening. It did work against the second person I played who ran in and kind of went, oh, she's dead. So that solved that problem.
Yeah.
I also took Moonlighting so that I could raise corpse constructs from models that I killed via poisoning. Because
It's fire expunge, isn't it?
that's the one, yes. So, because why wouldn't you? It's a 6-point model.
Yeah, so McMorning poisons things loads, and then poison's normally a slow drip, but Expunge lets him do all the damage all at once,
Yeah.
like it's kind of like an instant burning thing.
Yeah, and then
Like
turn
literally filth.
yeah,
Yeah.
and turn you into one of my 6-point models, which I turned a pig into at one point. Got a bit weird.
I remember when you did that to Hoffman early on in our Malifaux games.
Yeah, he could go fuck himself. I don't even find him that scary, but you know, he's
When in Rome.
exactly.
Your words were, "This will be funny."
And it still is, Rob.
I also took the zombie chihuahua, his totem, which can still, as a model, go screw itself so far because nothing needs to be that many pieces when you can't. This is being serious now. I painted the entire crew. I put down the zombie chihuahua on my Victorian-themed board with its Victorian-themed base, and you can't see it. And I spent 2 hours painting it, including the eyes on this fucking thing, and you actually can't see it on the board. It's impossible. It's upsetting.
It is the tiniest model, and it is in what, like 5-6 pieces.
I think it was 4 pieces.
The tail changes in the telling every time, but it's a ridiculous model.
It's stupid and you can't see it. I could just put a blank base on and go, there's my chihuahua.
Probably stand out more, to be fair, mate.
Well, yeah, that's true. So I took that because that, although is more of a nuisance, it can make all models nearby take poisoning, so good for dishing it all out. I took Sebastian because why wouldn't you? Sebastian, if you activate near him, you take additional damage from poisoning.
Instantly as well.
Instantly.
Yeah.
So instead of taking 1 point at the end of your turn, you're taking 3 points when you activate and 3 points at the end of the turn. He also took Those Are Not Ours, which means if you die of being poisoned, which you probably are, you turn into a canine remains. So I get more dogs. I took Rafkin as my enforcer.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Who is kind of a mini McMorning, just stabs things with lots of poison on and does it very, very well.
He throw flasks at people.
He does throw flasks at people to
Okay.
give them poisoning.
And I
Yes.
think he's immune to poison himself.
He also heals from poisoning,
That's it.
and he can remove poison from people to heal them. So I was poisoning my own stuff and then just using it to heal. So he's an all-round very good model. I'm going to get Brian to say this name.
Shiaki.
Shiaki the niece. A model I've never used before, but she removes status effects and conditions.
Or Chiakai.
I just call her the niece.
The niece.
The niece. I took the niece. She plays a flute. And she's incorporeal and probably not alive. Is she alive? Oh, she is living.
Yes.
She is living.
So I took her for the only reason that she removes statuses and conditions.
Just conditions.
Wow. You
Or
know.
does, in theory.
Or does, yes, we'll get onto that. And then in the rest of my list, I took a Kruligan in case I needed it for schemes and strategies. A Flesh Construct because they're hard and have 13 wounds. A couple of Nurses whose main job is to poison the shit out of everything that gets too
They
close.
upset me.
A Rotten Bell for making things wander over to me so I can then poison them. An Ashigaru, which is a new model I got, which is a undead samurai that pretty much prevents you from charging because although you will take damage immediately from it. So it stops people charging you.
Yeah, it's mean.
And the last one, I hope I'm pronouncing this right, is the Kentauri.
Yeah, go for it. That's fine.
Yeah,
It's close.
is it Kentauri?
Kentor Roy.
Kentoroi.
Yeah.
That doesn't make sense.
Well, it's a centaur,
Well,
but it's got a K at the beginning,
it's a
and then it's got
centauri.
OI at the end.
Yeah, so I initially pronounced it Centauri, thinking the K.
Kentauroi.
Kentauroi.
Yeah.
Kentauroi. So I took a Kentauroi, or Roy, as we call it.
Yeah.
Just Roy. Or Ken. Pick one, I
Can you
don't care.
call one Ken, one Roy, and one something?
Tor.
Tor.
Yeah.
Or Yorkin.
Yes, who are undead cavalry, basically, that can also allow you to move other models. So at one point, McMorning was riding around on a horse.
It's nice that they've added things to make the slow, resilient faction
Really,
quick as
really quick.
shit.
Yeah.
Yes.
Where you end up with fast punk zombies moving 25 inches in a turn and stuff.
That was my list. Half of that I never took. The other half I took and died immediately. It all went a bit wrong.
Oh, it's okay, Colin. And Rob, so Lilith then.
Yeah, I went with a Lilith and Nephilim pool.
Were you trying to groan Nephilim?
grown Nephilim.
Grown Nephilim.
I did take a single Terratot as a scheme runner, and I had a Black Blood Shaman in there for healing,
Yeah.
at which point Grow was an option,
Yeah.
and I did use that in the first game.
Yeah.
But otherwise, it was going to count against me. I've learned not to rely on rapid growth and grow because it generally doesn't work on you lot.
Yes.
So I didn't
We
expect it to
we
work
don't
in a
let
tournament.
it.
No.
Unless you're Colin. Yeah, so it was a majority Nephilim. I did throw in Bad Juju and a Waldgeist as well.
Yep.
Purely for the purposes of the last game and throwing them into one of the quarters for the new hours scheme, which is Reconnaissance or Reconnoiter by any other name.
Yes, based on claiming table quarters.
Mhm.
Yep.
My Nephilim were Barbaros, a mature Nephilim, Black Blood Shaman, the Terratot I mentioned. I did throw in a Doppelganger and an Illuminated as well, because two of the games relied on resilience, hence the Illuminated. And I had a cunning plan for the Doppelganger in round 2, where there was lots of interact actions to win the strategy.
Yes.
And why wouldn't you take a doppelganger? Because it allows you to cheat.
It doesn't cheat, Colin. You
It
should know that.
lets you
You've got
cheat.
one now.
You can cheat the initiative flip with a doppelganger, which I think is
Exactly.
one of the best things in the world.
Yes.
I love it.
It would have.
I love being able to go first
Yeah, it would have saved my bacon more than once.
because you were playing pigs. Yay.
Upgrades-wise, I listened in on Schemes and Stones.
Ah,
Their
yes. Yeah.
Lilith one from 2016, I believe. And off the back of that, I gave Lilith a pool of Wicked Mistress and Beck and Malifaux, which are two Lilith-only ones, and then took Wings of Darkness and Ether Connection, which are leader-only, Neverborn ones that I've never really used before.
I like Ether Connection. That's the one that gives you an extra point back when you
When you flip for Soulstone, when you spend a soul stone to prevent damage, you prevent an extra 1.
Yes.
So you prevent 1 even on the Black Joker.
Yeah.
And then, Wings of Darkness allows you to fly, and when you spend a soul stone to draw 2 cards, you draw 3 instead. Which I wish I'd remembered which way it was round. But the flying was really useful, given Lilith's ability to ignore line of sight for charges and casting actions.
Yes.
Yeah.
Became very manoeuvrable. I took Hexed Among You, Barbaros's Nephilim Gladiatus, Nexus of Power, just there as an extra healing when you spend a soul stone on something other than damage prevention. And 2 copies of 1,000 Faces, because why wouldn't you?
That's 2,000 faces. That's a lot
is.
of faces.
And each 1,000 allows me to switch that upgrade out for any other Neverborn upgrade available to that model.
Just to talk about sort of getting there and that kind of thing, the tournament took place at Battlefield Hobbies in Daventry.
Mm-hmm.
I had never heard of it either.
No, Daventry.
I've been on the website a few times for Battlefield Hobbies.
Battlefield Hobbies I'd heard of. Daventry is what I hadn't heard of.
You just thought it was Dave's tree.
I thought it was Northampton, and then before that I thought Nottingham,
It's
so I was all over the
It's
country.
near
It's
Northampton.
Northamptonshire. Yeah, so as usual, I herded the geeks into my car and we drove to a place.
Yeah. What time did it start? We had to be there for 9:30.
Registration 9:30, round 1 was scheduled to start at 10.
Yeah,
I think
so
we started about 10:15 in the end.
Yeah.
Roughly.
so that was all right.
It's actually fairly good for a 40-person tournament.
Fairly good for geeks.
Yeah, so 40 people there, which means 20 3x3 tables, and Malifaux is quite scenery intensive. And one of the things I thought I might get away with taking Sonia was because she's very good at shooting people, and if you've got all those tables to fill up with scenery, I've played some tournaments before where everyone's got like a tree and a hedge and that's it. The place, Battlefield Hobbies, is massive. It's got a little shop and loads of gaming space, and like it's in a industrial park.
Yeah.
So
basically, yeah.
it's a huge, great
Literally.
big.
Yeah, it just is, Colin.
Yeah.
It just is.
But it's a genius move, and if I had the money, I'd set one up here.
Yeah,
Definitely. So it benefited from not being in a central location where space is at a premium, and being able to have. I mean, there were people playing Magic: The Gathering and having like their own little thing.
my entire row of tables was Magic at the back. Yeah, it was.
And there was space for it.
And then some of the tables were taken up with the lunchtime buffet
Yeah.
laid out, and there was the downstairs, the lockers.
Oh,
Having rentable lockers where you rent them for a year.
Yeah, so you can leave your
Genius.
stuff
You
there.
can leave your stuff.
And
Skip to James a shout.
there was plenty of space to put your cards around the table and your bags and stuff, and there was loads of scenery.
Yeah.
So you actually had proper tables, and each board had a little printout that said this is how it should be set up roughly, and this is what everything counts as.
Well, there were suggestions.
There were suggestions. Every game I went, this is what we do.
Yeah, same
And we
here.
went.
Yeah.
that's cool.
We didn't always, because there were some things that we were like, that should be hardcover, not softcover.
Yeah,
and
but that's
stuff like
fine.
that.
At least it gives you
They were-
something.
Yeah, definitely.
They
to
were
fall
nice
back on.
boards though. My first one was the railroad with the 2 train lines going either
I
side.
played on
with the
that,
trains
yeah.
on. That was
Yeah.
I really liked.
That was
that
my
board.
second game, yes.
Yeah.
I
Yes,
played on the
you
one
did.
next to it, because there was a second railway.
You don't get to play with the nice railroad.
Yeah.
No.
All credit to the organiser whose name escapes me, Joe.
David Brown.
There we go.
I was going to say
Because we were loading his car up with all that scenery at the end of the evening,
Yeah.
those of us that helped, and I don't know how he fitted it all in.
I will say board of the day for me was the Dreamer board, which was essentially
Oh, yes!
a kid's play map. You remember the ones when you were a child, you got the play mat and it's got all the little roads mapped out, and you take your little toy cars and you make giggling sounds or something because you're small.
Yeah,
and-
they used a permanent marker to mark out a 3x3 section of it, and then had lots of like brightly coloured cubes with letters on and stuff. And
all your basic toddler toys, and it was for the Dreamer.
Well,
which
I think we walked.
It's amazing. Yeah, it was amazing.
and I think your initial reaction was,
Was what the fuck is that? Yes.
I genuinely thought they'd run out of terrain.
yeah,
Yeah,
and then
resort.
went, oh no, it's actually quite a thematic, nicely thought out board, and it was
they themed it
Weird,
for
but
the
amazing,
Dreamer.
yeah.
And
It's a little light up MDFM.
yes.
Huge, great big place.
Yeah.
Lots of space for everyone.
Yeah.
Really smoothly organised.
Yeah.
Because one of the things that I don't like is when I'm not in charge of organising things. because I want to make sure everything works, and I get grumpy if it doesn't. All organised. Everyone signed up in advance on Bag of Tools, which is I'd never heard of, which is a really cool website that organises your tournament for you, and you just put your points in at the end of each game, and then it does all the drawing and stuff for the organiser to speed everything up, which is really cool.
Yeah, I mean, you can log on as well. You can see your standings, and it will tell you what table number you're playing on and who your opponent is. So it meant they didn't have to bother doing that because you just found it online.
Yeah, although they went through it, but most people were already.
Mine didn't work, so they were nice enough to tell me where I was going.
Cool. So we all got paired with people we'd never played before.
Yes.
So to start with, in round one.
Yeah. Okay.
So. That's the thing is we've run tournaments amongst our friends, with not official tournaments or anything like that. But this is the first time I'd ever played Malifaux as a stranger.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's the same for all of us.
Yeah. And I have a thing where sometimes I don't like people.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
You never would have guessed.
No.
And it's one of those things that puts me off. I had lots of bad tournament experience playing Games Workshop games many years ago. Last time we tried to get into tournament wargaming was playing Warhammer Hordes, War Machine and Hordes, and that made me want to gouge my own eyes out.
As I recall, that not tournament, but just those gaming nights.
It was a league, wasn't it?
That league actually made us all stop playing. I don't think I never played another game again.
No,
and I don't think you did either, Brian.
There were some people that were very.
I don't think any of us did.
They weren't.
They were very Games Workshop players.
Yes,
what they were.
Yeah, and I was a bit anxious about playing a game that was even more complicated than a typical Games Workshop game, because there's more potential for rules disagreements, rules lawyering, rules arguments, and that kind of thing.
Twattish behaviour.
Yes. Immediately introduced myself to my opponent, explained I'd never played outside of my own little group before, and it was my first tournament, and the chap couldn't have been lovelier and helped me out, and I made a couple mistakes where I did some silly things, and he was like, you don't have to do that, you've done that wrong, and let me do it again. And it was an absolutely lovely game. I played against Tara, who, Rob, you've played against me.
Yep.
Chris, if you're listening, has played against me. This is a chap who has been to 10 tournaments, he told me, last year, and he played Tara on a completely different level that I hadn't seen before, and battered me quite thoroughly, and I lost 6-1, but learnt loads. I kind of want to play Tara now. Now I've seen exactly what she can do. Yeah, it was a really good game.
Yeah, so my round one, I played against a guy called Richard, who's quite well known. Apparently he's a former Masters player, so one of the better people at the tournament, definitely, if not one of the better people in the country, apparently. I did instantly when I was like, well, is he good? Have people kind of going, yeah, sorry, like, I know it's your first tournament, and
it's all done randomly, isn't it?
Oh,
that's the thing.
Yeah,
so.
But it was that kind of like, this might be a bad introduction for you.
Yeah. I mean, the guy I played finished 4th, I think, so
nice.
So I didn't feel too bad. If you get hammered by someone and then they finish like dead last,
so he was playing Ulix, who I have glanced at because Aaron now plays him, but haven't ever really paid any attention to any gremlins.
Yeah, Aaron's only had a couple games with him. So.
Or any attention to Aaron. Hi, Aaron.
But it turns out a thing that's not good to do with Ulix is to just summon things and run them at Rasputina, because she'll blow it all off the board and laugh and lose a model and win 7-0. So that went 8-0, in fact, actually. That went really well. But set me up awfully for the second round.
How'd your first game go, Colin?
Well, where Joe played a guy that, he's quite good. He tends to finish quite... I played a guy who is good and does finish quite high, and, well, it went about as well as I expected it to go. I think I got as far as deploying. I think I moved a couple of models. So I was playing Summer, who I've never even read his rules. I had no idea what any of his stuff did. I took a quick glance but was too busy crying by that point, going, I don't know what's going on. Lovely man. He did apologise in advance and going, it's okay, you'll get a couple of points. It was like, well, that sums it all up for me. But
Did you get a couple of points, Colin?
No.
It's always when I'm getting roughly pounded, I do like someone to put their arm around me and tell me it's going to be okay.
Yeah, he comforted me. He did stroke my hair at least once, so I didn't feel too bad. I proceeded to go, well, I'll do what Morning does best, which is try and get as close as possible, knife some things up and see how that goes. I didn't make it into combat. He shot me repeatedly, and his other models froze me in place, taking away my walk and charge actions, so I just kind of stood there for the whole game going, It didn't help that I couldn't flip a good card and he couldn't flip a bad card, which is, just luck really when it comes down to it. He took my corpse markers and turned them into exploding pigs that kept doing 4 damage, which is the highest they can do, because Summer apparently has this ability where you can just use a card and all of your models get rams. And he put rams down, and all of his stuff had ram triggers, and the exploding pigs do max damage on rams. So he just wiped the floor with me.
So exploding pigs are good at killing sheep.
Yes, it turns out. Ended on 7-0.
So I was facing off against May, very different May than I'm used to. Kang was the only other member of her crew box to show up. Instead, I faced off against a mechanical pork chop, for obvious reasons with the scrap markers, Shadow Emissary, and a Katanaka crime boss, which is a model I'd never faced and would be quite happy if I never faced him again. We had the first round was Show Them Blood for the strategy. It's one where
Public execution.
Sorry, Show Blood is the condition that you score with, but only one of you can score from that per turn. And this was also my first game to include hazardous terrain.
Oh, excellent.
I was playing on the Neverborn Revenge board with the crystals.
Oh, that's a beautiful board, all purple and mushroomy and crystally.
All soft cover as well, according to the laminate sheet, which is what we stuck with.
Makes sense that the mushroom's only soft cover.
Yes, but the crystal shards I expected to be hard cover, but they weren't. I suppose they chip away.
There seems to be a lot less hard cover than we tend to use.
Yes, very much. I thought he was wiping the floor with me at several points. The pork chop saved my bacon on one occasion by flipping a ram to attack my Terratop through the hazardous terrain, and because the pork chop has to declare a trigger if able, it removed all scheme markers within 3 inches of it, and the only one was his.
Oh,
yeah,
nice.
Cost him a victory point. I managed to score 1 point from the strategy. I'd also taken Eliminate Leadership and managed to get May down to a single wound at the end of the game, which was absolutely infuriating. And then scored another from the final scheme, that one where you need to have 2 enemy models within 3 inches of... No, an enemy model within 3 inches of the scheme marker.
Yeah.
To score a point if they're all on their own. We set the trap. Scored 1 off that, and simultaneously foiled him scoring another 1 off of it as I ran my Primordial Magic up the table, counted it as a scheme marker at the end. We wound up 4-3 to him.
Chris, who we've mentioned already, came with us as well, and he also narrowly lost by a single point. So at the end of the first round, Joe, you seem to be doing quite well.
I was third.
Yes.
At the end of the first round.
I was 23rd.
And you're the most seasoned competitive player amongst us. Obviously, for Malifaux, you're at the same level, but for everything else,
just generally going to and competing in events.
Yeah, and you're probably the one of us, I'd say, that enjoys competitive gaming the most.
I enjoy that environment. I like the challenge. Yeah.
So yes, that was kind of expected. We all shuffled round, started new games. I ended up... This is what tends to happen to me whenever we've done anything competitive, is I do what they call submarining, where I sink to the bottom of the pool and then I slowly float up. Because I lost quite heavily, I played a chap who also lost quite heavily, and it turned out it was only his 2nd or 3rd game of Malifaux ever. Playing against Seamus. And so
Seamus?
Yeah.
I like Seamus.
And so it was now my turn to be the one sort of being helpful and suggesting things. And
so you wiped the floor with him.
I won 7-3.
Okay.
Is that because you suggested he put all those things in the corner and stay there defensively because it means nothing will die?
And everyone lines up for blasts from Sonia.
Yes.
No, I didn't do that. I think I was nice, but it's not for me to say.
Didn't you point out a few things and suggest you sort of take moves back and do something?
Yeah, so there are a couple of times where he moved a few little bits over and then wanted to say shoot into a combat, not realising that because he had the gun icon on the attack that it had randomised and he was much more likely to hit his own stuff. And he was like, oh, I shouldn't do that then. I was like, well, go back to the beginning, you can activate something else if you want, because, there's no point being super horrible about these things.
I'm happy to do it as long as cards haven't been flipped.
Yeah.
If cards have been flipped, then it becomes a bit more set. But
yeah, it's trickier if once cards have been flipped. But it was still a nice game. We had a bit of a chat as we were playing. I used Dr. Grimwell, who ran in, gathered lots of intel because that's what we were trying to do. So gather intel on the other models, and I don't think he made a single attack all game.
Cool.
But he's so quick. Got nimble. I forgot he got nimble. I'm not used to quick models in Guild, so he was actually quite a nice little option.
You're welcome.
Yeah, and I didn't rush. I rushed forward a bit too much against Tara and kind of got caught up. But yeah, that was a fun game from my perspective, at least. Sorry if you didn't enjoy it out there.
Cool. So my round 2. Shut up. I ended up playing the guy that hammered Colin.
Yes.
Because we both won in quite a convincing fashion. Me and Colin discussed what had happened in his game. Because we had the first game and we had lunch. So
yes.
we had quite a good chance.
Nice buffet lunch, by the way. It was alright, yeah.
Good.
There was fruit and vegetables and stuff.
Yeah, it was impressive.
Impressed as a man who is trying not to be as fat as he currently is.
We went through about how it does lots of shooting. So I was like, I'm really glad I put Snowstorm in there with his bulletproofness.
Lots of summoning,
which I was hoping might be okay.
Lots of exploding pigs.
I didn't have a single exploding pig in my game.
Did you not?
No.
Lucky you.
I tried to be a little bit more sensible, I guess. Because he did say you ran at him and were very aggressive, so I tried to hold back a bit, tried to keep Snow in cover, but so I could channel through and get blasts. Cards didn't land when I needed them to, and it wasn't a particularly high killy game, but nothing really went my way. It was a lot closer, apparently, than your game, but we ended up with the same score, and I got beaten 7-0, feeling massively out of my depth.
You flew too close to the sun. I sunk to the bottom and gradually rose. You got way too high. Your wings melted and you plummeted back to Earth.
Yes. Don't attach wings with ice. That's a bad plan. It was a fantastic game because I learnt a lot.
Yeah.
And like Colin said, the guy was nice to play with. He quickly realised that we could have a bit of a joke, which was fine. It was good. I learnt a lot, and I feel that I am a better player for getting absolutely smashed.
Yes.
It's about time.
Yeah. That's why I'm so good now, because I used to lose so much. That's what it is.
Yes. Yeah.
In my second game, I played a guy that had been slapped around quite brutally in his first game. So I was playing the Outcasts. I have no idea who the master is.
Were there two of them? Was one of the kneeling down? Were they punky women?
No, there was only one, and then there was a couple of Ronin. Well, to be honest, this is
amazing.
This kind of how it explains what it went.
Just for people at home, we said, remember what happens during the day because we're going to talk about it on the podcast.
I remember what happens. I just didn't care long enough to get the names of my victims.
Okay, what did the master do?
Nothing.
Okay.
Because unfortunately, I did try and explain.
Sounds like Parker.
He'd never played McMorning before, and I did briefly explain and go, "Don't go near him." At which point he proceeded to charge halfway across the board at me. So his master walked up to me and, got ready for the charge next turn, and my McMorning ran in and stabbed him to death. And so I don't know what the master did. He didn't have time to do anything.
Fair enough.
It ended fairly close. We ended up in quite a nasty fight. Taylor kept killing my constructs, but I just kept summoning more.
Oh, God!
Yeah.
Taylor, good against constructs and summoning.
Yeah.
How did you survive?
Because unfortunately, every time she was activating, she was taking all that poison damage, so I let her murder my constructs while I just jabbed her with a pen repeatedly until she died of blood poisoning.
Yeah.
Because it's a funny thing to do.
We had a very similar game when I played you against your Seamus.
Yes,
where
basically.
Taylor managed to hold your entire
army up.
army up in one tiny corner of the board for
Yeah.
about 2 turns.
His hardest models ran at McMorning and all got murdered, so McMorning did his job perfectly. It was just the rest of the stuff that I had to wear down. It was a lot closer than it looked, because although I seemed to be dominating all his models, he was holding me up and stopping me getting schemes and strategies, and so we ended on a 5-4 win to me, which I was fairly happy with. Right in the centre of the board was hazardous terrain, so we were taking quite a lot of damage trying to put schemes down, but my ability to keep stuff healed. Upsettingly, I took the niece for the second game because she can remove conditions, and that would be really good for the intel. And, well, he had a model that ignores incorporeal, so she died before doing anything. So I have no idea what she does. I'll let you know if she's any good one day. 5-4, I didn't so much as rise from the depths as kind of glugged a little bit and glanced at people.
You could see the sunlight at the top.
I could see the sunlight through the water, but I was...
Did you have like a hollowed out reed just poking up and you could just taste air as long as you concentrated?
Yes, but Joe had his thumb over it the entire time, until he then sank to the bottom with me, so it was fine.
I played my second game on the railroad board that we've mentioned.
I love that board.
And I played against someone else who'd only lost by a point. I got to play Chris.
Hi, Chris!
Yay! For not playing people we know.
Yeah. And
so he travelled an hour and a half to play someone that you've played loads of games against.
yes.
Yeah.
I dread to think how many hours he'd travelled.
Oh, 1 million.
And he was fielding May, as he had before, but this time May as the Arcanists,
Okay.
which was an excuse to take not Joss, Alexei Sokolov, who is the alternate Joss model.
Yeah. I got really excited the other day looking through Arcanist models on the new app and went, "Ooh, this guy looks really good. I've not heard of." Oh, it's Joss.
Right, really good.
Yeah.
Really appealed, and I have to say the model I thought was a disappointment. It's just standing there statically.
I think it's nicer than Joss.
I'm not so sure. Joss at least has movement.
Joss looks like a Goliath from Necromunda that got lost.
Yeah, so he was fielding not Joss. He had Angelica, a Soulstone miner. So obviously I knew he was going to take the scheme for dropping scheme markers in the corners.
Yeah.
Because when you deploy that at the end of the first turn and just have to be 6 inches away from an enemy model or deployment zone.
Yeah.
Well, I did have to remind him. I'm going to deploy... Yeah, I'll deploy it into combat with your Terratot. No, that's not how it works. But didn't stop him killing my Terratot.
Good.
However, I made
It's a child infanticide!
I made it a sucker, so it got me 2 victory points.
Excellent.
As I ran it down the flank as a decoy. Trying to make him think I was trying to score the corners.
Yeah, I did a very similar thing in my game.
I tried, and he went, "That's further forward than everything else," and just went, "That's also in the pool," so killed nothing.
Yeah.
To my shame, those 2 points are all I scored.
Yay!
As I kept making mistake after mistake. It started with my little layout deploying the Black Blood Shaman in base-to-base contact with both Bad Juju and the Doppelganger. First activation was to give them both Black Blood.
Good idea.
Except the Black Blood Shaman flipped the Red Joker for damage when hitting the Doppelganger
Oh,
on a
no.
double negative flip.
Oh no!
Which, looking back in the rules now, it says the Red Joker may be taken even during a double negative flip. So I don't think I had to do 4 damage to her and take most of her wounds away.
I would say not.
No, but at the time, Chris said you did, and the chap walking by, who was helping out the organising,
Agreed.
was agreeing.
In all
and so
fairness, that happened in my second game as well when he was trying to summon off some stuff. And
you shouldn't be able to summon doppelgangers into Arcanist or other filth like that.
No. But he flipped double negative on a relent to do a thing and murdered one of his gremlins.
I did.
I assumed it was the same. It's a good thing you used the Red Joker because it flipped up.
I did the same with a nurse. I stabbed my own thing and did not a lot of damage,
One,
but
Colin.
yeah, but that's a lot for a nurse, and it was a waste of the Red Joker.
Don't know if you know much about nurses. They're not normally supposed to do damage.
No, they do poison the crap out of
The
you.
NHS will strike them off.
My cunning plan, mentioned earlier, was to use the doppelganger to mimic the Primordial Magic's Nullify attack,
Yeah.
and therefore make half of his crew unable to interact for the rest of the game. I made not Joss uninteractable for 3 turns, and that was the sum total of how much that achieved. I kept losing track of who he hadn't activated.
Right.
I like to blame Angelica and her pushes, moving Kang around, but I'd keep moving models into areas thinking they're safe, and then he'd move over and interact. And I think it's twice we were at even level with numbers
Yeah.
with the condition, and I'm going, okay, we're safe, and I'll move that to there now. It's safe, nothing can get it. Oh no, wait, he's interacted, he wins it again. Right down to the very last bit, as we are given the 10-minute warning, just as we're finishing up turn 4, and we're told don't start another round, another turn. And I go, okay, then I can move the Black Blood Shaman to here. No, Kang hadn't activated, so he went and I handed him yet another victory point, and we finished 8-2. Time was up, and that was the first time it actually felt really to me like a tournament game. I hadn't felt the pressure so much in the first one after I got over my nerves.
Oh, sad for you.
But yeah, that point I went, oh, I wish I'd played faster.
Yeah.
We'd all kind of met. Me and Joe, we'd kind of met in the middle, win and the loss, along with Chris, and then you two were sinking fast.
I clawed a point back.
Oh no, you'd met us in the middle, and Rob, you were sinking.
I was sinking.
You were
Still
sinking,
on -6, but I'd clawed a point back from my -7.
Yeah. So the final round then, the strategy was ours, which is claiming table quarters. I decided...
I'd like to point out, just because this is definitely important for when it comes to me, it was claiming table quarters. Summoned models did not count towards this.
Yes, I was summoning as well, the occasional Witchling Stalker, so...
I left my Terratot out and went, no, I won't bother with growing stuff.
Yeah.
I planned to keep it in for scheme running, but didn't need to with the scheme pool we got.
Yeah. I think I went with Dig Their Graves because it was the simplest thing on the board, and something else.
It was Guarded Treasure.
Guarded Treasure, yes, Guarded Treasure.
I wish I'd taken that.
Because if I didn't dig the graves and claim the scheme marker, it'd still be sat there for Guarded Treasure. That was my plan.
Yeah.
And I decided to take all the models I hadn't used yet, which was Samael and the Purifying Flame, and then decided the Witchling Handler had done enough work for the day.
Not enough Witchlings.
Yeah, and I could use the Stalkers to then, for the Thralls to kind of yoink onto on their chains and kind of close the distance really quickly and then kind of guard the centre line. That's kind of my plan. Playing against Mei Feng, the same player that you played in your first game.
Steph, yeah.
That was a very, very close game. Very, very close game. Very, very, very tight. Nearly killed lots of his stuff. And then Terracotta Warriors are amazing, for those of you that don't know. Kept lots of his models
seem to
alive.
do very much. They have just gone up a point, haven't they, in the errata?
I think
Was it
so,
the errata
yeah.
before?
But I think we were both starting to suffer a bit from
Fatigue.
Malifaux brain, fatigue, last game. And fortunately for me, I think it hindered his play more than mine. He kept feeding me Kamainu, kept summoning them in. And throwing them at me.
Guardian, Lion Dog Spirit things.
Yeah. Which are quite nasty, quite mobile. They can sort of teleport around and all sorts of things. But I kept setting them on fire and then murdering them with their graves already dug and then chucking them in there. And the game finished 4-3. But
Exactly how he beat me.
I think the mistake that he made was that he managed to accidentally pick a scheme that he couldn't actually score.
Oops.
Yeah, which required a certain number of soul stones worth of minions. And he didn't realise.
Public demonstration.
Yeah, now he did say that to me in the second turn, and I just said, well, do you want to pick a different one and just use it next turn? But he was very kind. He's like, no, I've made the choice, I've made a mistake. So I think if he had something else that he could have scored, it would have been even closer. And it came down to, it was, I'd miscalculated. I thought I was winning, but I was going to win by more. But I'd miscalculated where the table quarters were. But I'd managed to put Sonia on the line, and thus wasn't claiming my second table quarter. But I'd managed to, Samael, who did quite well actually, shot a load of stuff, ran and dumped a scheme marker, and the Witchling Thrall turned round and punched the Kamainu and finished it off. Because they're a real pain, because they have hard to kill. And so I kept almost killing them and then having to drop scheme markers nearby. But he did drop the scheme marker that was then the grave for the Kamino.
Oh, that's
that got
nice.
me the point.
He dug his own grave.
The synergy there is amazing.
Yes.
You drop the thing within 4 and then it kills the thing and then you get to put it in that grave and it's all good.
Yeah, that
So
works.
yes, Witchling Thralls are amazing. So I finished with 2 wins and a loss. And a grand total overall of a sort of net victory point balance, goal difference if you like, of 0. Exactly 0.
So I went into my third game against Molly. Yeah, another master I've not played against.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was kind of like, okay, she's going to summon. There were models in there that I have played against. She was using Madame Sabelle.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because Molly is Belle. There's a Rogue Necromancy and some other bits. Kind of going, right, okay. To be honest, at this point, I'm focusing more on the fact that the board have this giant walkway system across nearly all of it.
Yeah. It's a very unusual board.
And going, elevated terrain is weird, and
especially in Malifaux, it's not designed for.
No, it's just
the rules are odd.
My Nephilim love it.
I'm sure your Nephilim love it. The rest of us,
to be honest, the way that it's played, it would seem, actually doesn't make it that difficult.
Okay.
The rules are fine. But yeah, that kind of threw me a little bit. So I thought, right, I'll just go and establish the high ground and murder everything with magic if it comes near me.
Yeah.
Seemed good. Didn't realise that the frequency Molly can vomit models at you.
Yeah.
God, that caused some problems. Really nice guy, to be honest. We were having a laugh. All of his things had adjectives attached to them.
Yeah.
Which was the wonderful Bell and the transfixing this as he was going through his crew. And I was like, it's Rasputina. She's cold. This is snowstorm. It's also cold. Yeah, it was a really good game. It was really close. I made a couple of stupid mistakes because you can't claim table quarters if you're within 6 inches of the centre. And even though our lovely map we were playing on had a nice 6-inch circle in the centre mapped out on it, so it's quite easy to figure that out. As I stuck to the higher up, I crossed the line with Rasputin at one point, denying myself a table quarter, which was dumb. Got myself bogged down in combat, which I shouldn't have done. Should have remembered to do things slightly differently in a few places. I was just tired and making mistakes against something I wasn't prepared for. Completely took the wrong schemes as well. I took Guided Treasure and shouldn't have. I should have just taken something else. Because, but I lost by a point, and it was close. It was good fun. Again, it was a learning experience for sure. And so I ended up the day with 1 win, 2 losses, and an overall victory point difference of 0.
Yeah.
Anyone that can score 0 is doing better than me.
Excellent. This is not going to go well then.
What do you think, Colin?
I would just like to take this point to laugh at Colin because he, a second ago, people might have heard, mocked me for my round 2 loss, which was the same as his round 1 loss in points and opponent. And Colin then had the joy of playing the guy I played in game 1.
Yeah.
Where I won 8-0.
Yeah.
How'd that go for you, Colin?
Well, here's what
Not
happened.
that well.
From what he still had Ulux, obviously, and his original first game strategy of running at the opponent and summoning and then getting blown up by Joe, because that's really not what the strategy and schemes entailed. It kind of worked in the third game because that's exactly what you wanted to do. He did play into my hands a little bit because what I decided to do was I took the Kentauri so I could ride McMorning around the board to claim table quarters, and what I thought I'd do is pull him into the centre of the board, denying most of the victory points for both of us, keep a couple of things back to claim my table quarters, and then just bog him down in combat for the rest of the game, which he just kind of charged and summoned pigs at me. Where it all went horribly, horribly wrong is, I forgot one of the schemes I took until the last turn of the game, which was Gravedigger.
Ah, okay.
Which I should have been doing and would have been really good at because McMorning has a 0 action that allows models to drop scheme markers.
Yep.
It's not an interact action, and I was murdering enough that I could just drop ski markers and kill stuff.
So you should have got 3 points out of that.
I should have easily got 3 points because Morning by himself was murdering everything in sight.
Yeah.
I took Public Demonstration, which was you needed at least 15 points of minions spread over 3 models, and at the end of any turn, if these models were in, I think it was 4 inches of a master or a henchman, you got a point for each one that was close enough. I got 2 points out of it because I accidentally allowed his henchman, who was that martial pig guy.
Old Major.
Old Major. I allowed Old Major to reactivate, and he killed my 3rd model.
That was dumb, Colin.
Yeah, but I did it for a very good reason.
You're dumb.
I wanted a dog, and he wanted a pig, and I wanted a dog first, so I used my last card. But he then ended up using his last cards on Major, which allowed my models to reactivate. It got very weird.
It was like a complicated game.
It was actually probably the most fun I had, gaming-wise.
In your life.
In my life for the day. It ended with a 5-4 loss to me. If I'd done the game properly, I probably should have won. But to be fair, I'm sure there's things he could have done because he was very tired as well when we were both just kind of flailing. What I did enjoy is by the end of the game, pretty much all we had left was summoned models. Most of our original army was dead, and we had models that didn't count for table quarters, and we were just essentially flailing at one another, sacrificing models, and then repeating until the game ended. But it was very enjoyable. Fuck pigs.
Yes.
No, that's
like all good Tories before you.
Yes.
So you ended up. Do you know what your goal difference was?
Yes.
What was it?
It was.
Come on, I know maths is hard, Colin.
It is hard. It was -7.
My final game then was downstairs against a chap called Pete. He was fielding Hoffman.
Ooh.
So every one of my games was against a master I own.
Well,
that's an advantage then, because I played 3 masters I've played against before.
Yes,
you played, Joe. You played 3 you'd never seen.
Yeah.
And Colin.
I played 1 that I didn't know what it did because it died, and 2 were gremlins who I'd never seen before.
Yeah. So you, same as me, 3 you'd never seen.
Yeah, it was scary.
You might have seen the one that died before.
I probably have. I think I recognised the model, but it just fell over.
I found it very easy to lose while fielding Hoffman. So I lost the flip for deployment, and that again counted in my favour. I took a corner that really left him only one of 2 sides of a church to deploy on, and he picked the side I wouldn't have. Hoffman's crew all ended up getting rather bundled up.
They need to be close to Hoffman for him to do all his diddling, don't they? Yeah.
And Pete did really well. I've never been able to get the tone triggers, daft as it sounds, to repeat the power loop.
Yeah.
With that trigger. So he was getting it done quite, but I think he focused on that too much like I've done in the past.
Yeah.
He gave Nimble to the Watcher, where I would have given it to Ryle. Particularly since I later discovered he'd taken Vendetta against Barbaros, and they were on opposite sides of the table for the entire game.
It's really Vendetta's really good if you get to deploy second.
Which he did.
Okay, so you should be able to put him nearby. Should be fine.
But he kept everyone together so as to power loop, and that meant they were further away than they wanted to be.
Yeah.
I'd also taken Vendetta. I decided my mature Nephilim had a beef with his Peacekeeper on the grounds it was,
A Peacekeeper? They're like the traffic wardens.
I've never faced a Peacekeeper before.
Okay.
Model's smaller than I was expecting from the renders I've seen. But I was looking around and going, the mature Nephilim will kill virtually anything. Has he got anything that's 11 points or more?
Yeah.
Yes, he's got that. Right, okay, there we go. Do that. And so I flew around on the rooftops for 3 turns, ignoring the terrain that was keeping him bottled, blocking him in with illusory forests, and slowing him down with the Wollgeist Germinate.
Yeah.
3 turns of attempting to pull the Peacekeeper through a building using Tangled Shadows. Lilith's ability that I've never used until that day,
there you go.
and used, I think, 7-8 times over the course of the day.
Cool.
But yeah, I finally managed to pull the Peacekeeper in. The mature Nephilim, after wasting a turn being slowed, charged in, ate it in a single round of combat. Scored me 3 points there. Meanwhile, I should have taken Guarded Treasure, because I decoyed with that, rather than having to hold up their forces.
Yeah.
I'd held up their forces beautifully, but never with just a single model.
Yeah.
Usually with markers.
Yeah.
If I'd got Guarded Treasure, I'd have got another 2 victory points more. Instead, I took hold their forces and scored 0 on it.
Ouch.
I managed to win 3 of the 4 scoring rounds for ours, again by having bottled him up and basically blocked him in his own corner. Lilith and the mature Nephilim spent most of the game in the middle, in that central circle, with 6-inch radius, so weren't helping much. Again, by pushing him back, moving him, kept him in his 1/4. We ended up with very little left. Hoffman spent the last turn paralysed. Yes, I paralysed the disabled master. Laughing at me. I'm a bad man, this is known.
Kicked his crutch away.
Yeah. And we finished with my one win of the tournament, grand score of 6-1, meaning my overall VP difference was -2.
Well, I sucked.
Leaving me...
So that leaves you, Colin, in 30th place.
I'll have you know
Out of
it
40?
was 30th place, yeah.
Yeah.
Left me at 27th.
27th.
With Chris at 26th, also on a -2 VP difference, but he'd scored 15 for and 17 against.
Right.
Yeah.
Whereas
Even
I was at 11
if
and
you
13.
were 15, even if you guys had scored the same, he would have placed higher because he beat you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So yeah, that is unfortunate.
Yeah.
So a single victory point would have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Believe I ended up 24th.
Yeah.
I think.
Poor
Yes.
showing when you started third. I mean,
Yeah,
you could only go downwards.
I peaked far too early.
Yeah. You made yourself out to be a good player and then got trounced.
And I finished a glorious 17th, top at the top half of the table.
Yeah.
And the second highest placed guild player on the day, which I was quite chuffed with.
Awesome.
Annoyingly, there are only prizes for the top ranked for each faction,
Yeah.
so I didn't get any shiny toys. The Rezzers, you were almost like the top Rezzer player anyway, Colin. There were like hundreds of you, and everyone did really badly, which was really
Most of them called Colin.
Yeah.
There were like 7 Collins along at this tournament out of 40
that
people.
Was
You'd have expected a lot of Daves to have fallen off the Daventry.
Yeah, oh God. I don't like there being multiple Collins.
No.
I'm not used to hearing multiple Collins, so when someone says Colin, I just presume it's me.
So I was quite chuffed.
King of the Twits.
Yes, King of the Twits. Make me a crown. We also all got a raffle ticket.
We did.
For taking part. You got a raffle ticket for putting a model in the paint competition.
Late, but
I
yes.
should have had a second raffle ticket, but Colin ruined that.
Yeah.
Chris entered his May.
Yeah,
He did.
very nice model.
I voted for it. You're welcome, Chris. We didn't win, but I voted for it.
You voted for you as well if you didn't win.
No, you're not allowed to vote for yourself.
Yeah.
I
will point out the only reason I voted for myself is it was like, well, it doesn't matter, that guy's won, because to be fair,
Oh my God, that was
the
beautiful.
Yanlo model was very, very stunning with very intricate patterns, and I went, well, I don't know how many people are left to vote. He said most of them are done, and I want at least one vote, so I voted for myself.
I voted
You were
for
the
Yanlo
last person to put voting.
and
I was, so I don't feel bad for doing it, because it kind of was like, well, I might as well have one.
I voted for you, Chris, and Jan Lowe in that order.
me too.
I put you first simply because you'd entered late, and I thought you might
So
need the
that's why I
point.
thought I could,
I take it back,
get a
you
point.
cheated.
Now, if that had got me the victory, I would have gone. To be honest, I cheated.
You wouldn't. You'd have taken the prize and licked it, mate.
I would have beaten his mum to death with it. You know,
Yes.
the guy that lost because of me. I would have been like, I cheated, and now I've killed your mum.
Two of you won. Three of you won prize. No, two. Of you.
No.
one. I got one. Chris got one.
Yeah.
In the raffle.
There was some really nice stuff there, like all the
There
mystery
was.
boxes and some translucent
Yeah.
plastics and
That was first.
a Ferrero Rocher giant egg.
Yeah.
There was some cool stuff there. There was, by the time my number came up, there wasn't much left, so I ended up getting Colin a shiny Seamus card.
I do like winning when I don't.
Chris got the shiny Mayfeng card
Yep,
as well.
he did.
And we all got a Gilder for taking
We
part,
did.
and an embossed Troubleshooters 3.
I claimed yours.
Can
Remember
you
at the
be-
beginning when you kind of looked confused and I went, put it in my bag for safekeeping, you just went, okay.
Was I awake at this
I
point?
don't know, but I've got two.
Oh, those kind of things.
The little
The
poker
little,
chips.
the
Poker
little
Poker chips
poker
to Gilders that you can exchange for cool stuff.
Oh, I
Yeah.
forgot about that.
Because I convinced you to put it in my bag, which is the same as your bag.
It
'cause
probably didn't
apparently
take
mine
much.
was safer.
It probably didn't take much convincing, to be fair.
No, I didn't do this, and you did.
Yeah.
But it's mine now.
And Joe had given you a card.
You did give me a
Yeah,
card.
that's a fair trade.
That's true.
And we also got the Troubleshooters 3 blast marker.
We did, which
Is
again,
that what it's for?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a ring one, so
Yeah, I noticed
so you can
the
actually put it
30 mil.
over. Yeah.
it's a 50mm.
Oh, see, I tried to shove my poker chip into it. I'm thinking the two connected, and that's when you told me to
This
put it
is
in
why
your
we
bag.
can't have nice things.
Well, that's at the point because I thought you saw me doing that, and that's why you went put it in my bag. 'cause
Well, that is one of the reasons. I
Because
thought
you're
you'd
going-
break one of
yeah.
them.
Yeah.
You see, I measured it and went, oh, it's 50mm and it's got that 30mm hole in the middle. That's for marking when your master becomes an avatar and goes up to a 50mm base.
That could
You
work.
could use
Not
it
that we've
for
used the avatar rules
At all.
ever.
No,
Pretty
no,
good, yeah.
we were gonna and then realised how silly it would be and stopped playing.
Yes.
Oh, we had the cards for shifting loyalties.
So I had a great time. My fears were completely unfounded. My anxiety was completely unfounded, and I want to go again.
I wanted to go the very next day. I
No,
didn't
there
want
was-
to stop that day. I wanted it to be 3 days long and
Yeah.
skip work.
Yeah. Well, there is one in just before Easter that I think we're planning to go to.
Yes.
Yes,
I enjoyed myself
which is
a
a
lot.
fixed faction tournament.
Yes.
So different masters we can
Well,
take.
you declare your faction, and you have access to whatever you want from that faction that you own for each game.
Ooh,
So you could play Seamus round 1, McMorning round 2, and Nicodem round 3
Yeah.
if you wanted.
With-
That would really slow me down. I think I'd just take 2 masters along with. And
I would
mix
come up
between
with
them.
2 lists that I
worked.
felt were good.
Yeah.
Probably Marcus and Sandeep to go, look at my higher pools.
I'd kind of go, if something's really killy, this is what I'll take. If something's really schemy, this is what I'll take.
Yeah.
And kind of have the two. A middle option might be good. But
To be honest, I did say to people earlier, I was the 70 stones thing I didn't like that much.
okay.
Purely because there were points where I'd be like, oh, I'd love to be able to just slot this model in or this upgrade.
Yeah.
Taking the summoning upgrade and summoning nothing all day was a mistake. I should have taken the December's Pawn that allowed you to check out the Black Joker as the Red Joker.
Yeah.
Because in my second 2 games, Rasputina herself flipped the Black Joker 5 times,
Nice.
which would have been 5 reds and completely swung everything in my favour.
Yeah.
So that was sad.
Yeah. I liked it because it meant I wasn't trying to work out what I was gonna hire for more than about 3 minutes.
Yeah,
for
I
each
got
game.
indecision paralysis.
Yeah.
What do I want from all my many Neverborn?
Yes, yeah. So I was quite happy with that, and it kind of limited it. And everyone's in the same position, but
Fixed master I'm okay with. I would just rather have access to a bit more of the pool.
yeah,
Or even just double the pool. So if it's 45 games, have 90 rather than the 70. So you could
Yeah.
basically take 2 lists if you wanted.
Yeah.
Would have been nice. But it is what it is.
it was good,
Yes.
Yeah.
excellent. So hopefully we'll be able to see people at the next one
Yeah.
if they're about. Let us know if you're going to be there. Let us know what you think of our lists. How could you have improved the others' lists to make them as good at Malifaux as I am?
Flipping good cards.
So thank you very much for listening. We'll be back with another Malifaux podcast soon because we're going to talk about GG 2018 in a bit more detail once we've played a couple more games, even if it's just to make sure we've had a game of each strategy.
I'm so excited for the other 2 strategies.
Yeah.
Symbols of Authority looks fun.
As does the wagons.
So let us know what you think. Again, tips for the other 3 on what they should have done better. That'd be great. Great fleet receipt. I want to take a picture of your face just to be the image, the thumbnail for the podcast.
Please don't advise us just to lynch Brian. That's an obvious one.
Yeah.
We don't have an organiser.
But yeah, it'd be cool to hear from people. And if you were there, if you played if you played us.
If you remember
say
things
hello.
differently.
Yeah, if you're like, that's not what happened, then please correct us.
Colin is a liar. He's just bad at Malifaux and maths and words and interacting with other human beings.
We're old and infirm and our memories are failing us.
They're not as good as they used to be.
Thank you very much for listening. If you enjoyed this, please subscribe and leave us a review at your favourite podcast place. That would be amazing because it helps people find us. If you're feeling really generous, please head over to YouTube and subscribe because they want to take away all our money if we don't have enough subscribers.
Those bastards.
Yeah.
We don't have any, but those bastards.
And although it's not a lot of money what we make, it's kind of a kick in the teeth after you've made like 200 videos for something and then they tell you you're not good enough to play anymore.
Mm-hmm.
It's a bit rubbish. So we'd really appreciate if people could help us out.
If you really want to help out, sign up all of your pets and make them subscribe as well.
That'd be brilliant. Yeah.
We're okay with having a small badger army following us.
I will
I love a badger army.
I've been Brian Ennis.
I've been Joe Lewin.
I've been Colin Howard.
And I've been Rob.
And we can't end a podcast. So until next time, goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.
Say goodbye, Joe.
No!
I don't think all of Hitler's ideas were terrible.